Thank you. All right, so everybody, a reminder that Susan Fasino is a physical therapist who lives and works in a rural area of Mexico that's about 2.5 hours south of the border with California. And very, very rural, very, very poor families. And Susan is doing an absolutely amazing job of providing so many services for these families, including, as she was just telling me, helping them to obtain land near her so that they can then build or have homes built by some different church charities and organizations, so that these families can be near her and then near each other, so that they can be supporting each other and allowing the adults in the families to go to work and, be able to make some money. So it's just amazing. I mean, Susan is wearing a gazillion hats, and it's just, it's just so heart touching, all the things you are doing, Susan, and you tire me just hearing all the things you're doing too. It's amazing. So we had Susan last month and we talked about a couple of her kids, and so she really wanted to focus today on our patients on the autism spectrum. And so we do have a few videos of a child. We're going to start with just the presentation of this child, and then, like Susan said, this is representative of at least 7 children total that she's got in this similar category. All right, Susan, can you see?
Yes.
This? Okay, do you want to read it, or do you want, and then expand upon it, or do you want me to read it?
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Okay, so Matthias is a 3-year-old little boy with the autistic spectrum disorder. He does not know where he is in space. He does tend to crave vestibular and proprioceptive input. He flaps his hands quite a bit, and he's also very oral seeking, so he puts a lot of things in his mouth. He has very little joint attention, very short attention spans, and a lot of problems with his motor planning issues. He likes the sensory input on the horse. He often lies down prone to feel the horse's movement more. We put him in different positions on the horse to help with his body awareness. We try and get him to cooperate and to try to help us move him from one place to the other, but he needs constant verbal, not just verbal, he also needs verbal and physical cues on how to even turn himself around, things like that. We're addressing the weakness in his trunk. A lot of these kids, it seems like, they have some really weak tone in their core. And he's one of those. He likes to touch the horse's coat. He does a little bit more vocalization when he's on the horse versus when he's not, but no words. We try and incorporate the 2-step commands with his therapy. We tell him first we're going to do this and then this. He's not really able to. We have to do hand over hand a lot of times with the commands that we give him. He doesn't communicate with words, just kind of grunts and groans. He's very selective regarding what he will eat due to his sensory preferences. He mainly likes crunchy things. He does not help at all with any of his ADLs currently. His mom does pretty much everything for him when he's bathing and dressing, things like that. Many of our kids are kind of like that. Some of them will point. He's not even pointing to things, but some of our nonverbal kids do point and try and gesture for help, but Matthias is not even at that point yet.
Okay. So I'm sure those of us who've been practicing for a while all can envision somebody we've worked with that is very similar to Matthias. So does anybody want to say anything before we see any videos of Matthias? Anybody have any comments or questions for Susan?
Carol, could I ask, what do you operate with goals? So what are the goals for Matthias?
Well, for me, there's definitely basic communication of needs. The mom has like no idea what's going on with him, so maybe some basic communication for his needs, and just some like joint attention. Like there's no joint attention at all. He doesn't look for anyone. He doesn't respond to his name or anything in his environment really. So I think they just need hope, a spark of hope, that there's something going on in there, He just tends to flap his hands around. The only thing he tends to do is he smiles. He does like the horse, like he does respond that way, but otherwise he's pretty unresponsive. He's not aggressive towards anyone or anybody. He's just kind of in his own world, and it's really hard to get any response out of him.
So Joe, what you can hear from Susan is that Susan's not tied into the box that we are in the United States.
Yeah.
Those are not specifically PT goals as I would be forced to develop.
Correct.
Susan is truly wearing the holistic hat. And that's why she was hopeful that OTs and SLPs, in addition to PTs, would be participating tonight so that everybody can help to provide her some input in areas that are not her area of education and, and experience.
I have 40 years of outpatient ortho, to tell you the truth. I'm a physician assistant in orthopedics. So, yeah. So
I find it interesting that Matthias is a true sensory seeker. And, that he likes crunchy foods. I have to say that that's not been my experience with kids. They tend to be very avoiding of texture within their mouth, at least, and start with the pureed foods and have to work up towards something that is solid. So the fact that he really likes the crunchy foods, I think is kind of neat. So Shannon, any thoughts from you with regards to that?
I was thinking the same thing, because usually it's wanting the proprioceptive for the body, but then the mouth can be the complete opposite. So that's exciting that he wants the crunchy. Have y'all used any type of like I'm thinking in the home with mom, does she do like physical objects, like showing him milk and water for him to choose what he wants, or picture symbols? The step before the pictures is the actual object. Has she tried that to kind of help with those needs in the home?
I think innately she probably does. I would imagine she does, but I think with Matthias, like what I've observed her do is she kind of lets him wander around, and he actually goes for himself what he wants versus giving him choices or anything. She kind of just, because he's not a super crazy hyperactive kid, you don't have to worry about him hurting himself. So when I see her like in these events that we have, she just kind of follows him around and watches what he attends to more than give him a choice than anything, because you can't get his attention, I think, is why she does that.
Yeah, she may want to try with some really highly motivating, if he loves Cheetos and he hates raisins, offering raisins or Cheetos. It'll help with the attention, hopefully, and starting to get that attention, and that, oh, the other person can help me with my needs. But like a really highly motivating, and then something he doesn't want. And if he chooses the one he doesn't want, that's what he gets. And then you don't want it to go into a tantrum, but, oh, you picked raisins, you get raisins, and if he's, then you kind of go, okay, do you want raisins, Cheetos, and kind of do that. And it's just that simple backing the speech all the way up to one word. These are the kids I tend to do go and stop with. I don't do walk on, whoa, just really simple. Do you want the horse to go? And I might do hand over hand, hand under hand if they'll allow it, hand over hand if they'll allow it, and do like an arrow, the go sign. And I typically just point. So you've got that forward movement. I know some people will do like patting the horse for go, and then stop. I tend to do sign language along with the verbal and just back it up to one word. And you've got probably, 3 to 5 words that are your target or are kind of like your limit when you're using with him, just to start off with.
Okay.
Yeah, Shannon, I'd kind of agree with that. And I'd add, perhaps you could introduce just the stop and go visuals. And also then those visuals could be actual representations of pictures of things at home. So again, you're just after the help seeking and the choices and the preferences just to encourage that interaction, which, may not come for a while, but you want every child to be able to express need and choice, because then you can lead to, are you sick? Do you feel unwell? Are you sleepy? So you can extend beyond that down the track, but perhaps just using a stop and go sign, and all he has to do is tap it. Like you said, Shannon, you put your hand over hand, but it might be that he just taps and off you go. Yeah. So that way you can then extend it into the home once you've got that recognition of those two things if the horse is motivating.
Yeah.
And I would do green, have the go one make sure it's green, have the red one be sure it's red, or have the stop one be sure it's red. So you kind of have those. I think those are universal colors. I don't know for sure.
I think they are.
I think so. Yeah, that's good.
Or whatever are the signs, the stop signs and the go signs at home or on the street, whatever is familiar to the child. But I think we're pretty much green, yellow, red, universal.
Yeah. They're the same here. They go right by the red. They don't really stop at red when you're driving in Mexico, but that's the goal.
Yeah. So someone I worked with in Denver helped me. She used a lanyard or a little, I don't know what you call them, that you use, just a little hooky thing, for want of a better term, with lots of photos on it. So, and she just had it on her belt or had it clipped to the saddle and just used that. Yeah. So it was always accessible for what they needed. So it was started with stop and go, and then it just went with particular toys or items that child may want. So that way it's just encouraging him in some way to express his need.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's a good idea. We do have some people come down and they have given us, like special needs teachers, they've given us some pictures, and I know we have the stop go pictures that we're using in the small classroom. We do have a small classroom that I have a special needs teacher there. So we can definitely incorporate that into his when he's doing his activities. That's great.
And just if possible, use photos rather than, a cartoon representation, just the photo of the actual item.
Okay.
And he
More
may be at the level where if you have a ball that you're using in therapy a lot, or the horse, take a picture of that actual horse or that actual toy. So it's much more representative to him. He may not recognize that this picture of an orange ball is the same thing as the yellow ball used in therapy. And I was thinking with the stop and the go, I guess you're going to use andale and alto.
Yeah.
You might want to have for getting, if you want him to use it like to get the horse to go and to stop, have each sidewalker hold those pictures so that go is always on the left and stop is always on the right. And so when it comes time, if they can do it, this is when you want a third hand, because you're probably also having to hold him, but have each of them offer it to him. So it's definitely one is on the left, one is on the right. So
Okay, keep it the same side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same for yes and no. Like, how does he say, does he have a way to express yes and no right now?
Just grunting. He just kind of grunts, you
But
know.
is it a universal understanding? Would anybody, if I came up to him, would I understand if he meant yes or no?
Yeah, because he complains, like, yeah, he'll grimace in his
Okay.
facial expression,
Okay.
he'll grimace. Yeah, when it's
Okay.
no. Yeah, or yeah, you could tell he's definitely not happy about
Okay,
something.
so he is communicating.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
when it's huge, yeah. Or
When,
transitions. Most of them have problems with the transitions. When they don't, like they're pretty routine. And I'm trying to work on how to do a visual schedule in the classroom too, because because they always want to, it's hard to get them to change from one thing to another, to either get them to the horse or get them to this classroom or to get them most times to the car. That's like huge for all of them. They don't want to go home. So that transition is huge for most of them. Have major temper tantrums when it's time to get in the car. Some more than
Do you-
others.
Yeah, there's a few strategies that could be introduced for transitions. It really depends on what they respond to. Some kids respond really well simply to timers or a clock or an hourglass. Other kids, that doesn't work for them at all because they feel the pressure of the time. So sometimes it's just a countdown, a small countdown, or watching a clock. So it might be, a countdown for 10. It really varies on each child. Unfortunately, they vary so much. But I would keep it really, really super simple and just go, all I'm working on is getting that child to interact and respond, as Shannon said, with one word or command or preferences. Until that is really down pat, don't introduce anything else. And then when you feel like, that child, where you feel like that child is attending, then you just add one more little thing in. And even just keep everything really simple, and it's just repetition.
Okay.
yeah, when you start working on the transitions, like have a picture of mom's car, or a picture of mom, and always count down, and teach mom to always count down. If you count up and they're not doing what you want by 10, adults have the habit of continuing to count, and then you've lost your boundaries. And so it's kind of like, going to see mom in 3 and you've got mom's picture, going to see mom in 2, mom in 1, let's go see mom. And they can even, he can take, if he won't tear it up, he can hold the picture of mom as he makes that transition. And it may take, some Barbie hands under his armpits to kind of help move him along. But that way he understands, because the transition part could be an anxiousness of, I don't know what's next. I just know the adults are talking, and, who knows if he's processing all those words. And then I don't know what they want me to do. And if it's going to the car, it may be realizing, oh gosh, the fun is over and now I'm going
That's
home.
what it seems like. That's what it seems like to me. Yeah, because they want to, because we have different little houses, little casitas. And one is the classroom, one is the PT room, one is the speech and language room. And so they have certain toys or certain favorite things that are in those particular houses. So they want to get back into that house that they had so much fun in. Or we actually have a little outside place where there's little ramps and things like that. Or some of them that want to just roll around for a while more. They just don't want to go back in the car. Yeah. Because they don't want to leave the fun. Sounds like, usually seems like.
And that's a compliment to you.
Yeah, it's just super, at first it's sad to see the parents. I think I don't know who I hurt for more, the kids that can't communicate or the parents that watch it happen, and I know, especially in this culture, it's still very much looked down upon when you have a special needs kid and they just feel like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. It's like, no, it's like, it's not, it's okay here. We understand they're all like that. So it's just sad to watch the parents when the kid just has these meltdowns and then they're trying to get him in the car seat and they're like wiggling all over the place and they're using all their strength to get him in the car. Like, there's gotta be a better way. It doesn't always. I mean, we have some that were like that and are not like that anymore. So I know I've seen the miracles happen. It's just starting all over again. Like I said, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do? That didn't work. We blow bubbles to the car. We've done marching to the car.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Trial and error, constant trial and error.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. And I guess it's just the other question, Susan, that you have all these fun things. And do these families have anything fun for these children that they've brought in the car or that they've got
I mean,
at home?
some do, but most I'd say don't. So we do try and give them things to take home for their child. And I've lost a lot of things along the way because that's what I do. Like one kid loved dinosaurs. So the transition was, he gets to pick out a dinosaur to go home with. And then the parent, would bring it back the next time and he could pick another dinosaur to go home with. But because we're fortunate to have a couple of groups around Christmas, they ask me what they like. And so some of them now have a little bit of a toy that they have, that lights up or is musical or something like that they're able to take home with them. So that's good.
Yeah, I know even my grandkids, if we would go in the car, they would always want to take something with them, be it a toy or be it a book or something. And so if there's something in the car that the child knows is waiting for them, that might make the transition a little bit easier as well. Because like you said, it's, partially it's a transition period, but part of it is just the fact that they don't want to leave you and this wonderful facility and all these wonderful people and things and activities and then just go and get shoved into a car seat and strapped in and have nothing else. That I don't think I'd want to leave either.
Yeah. Kind of like that too.
So I do have a question before we show the videos about the transition to the horse and the transition on the horse for Matthias. How does he like the fact that he's going to see the horse, or is this just one more activity? How does he react to the horse, and then how does he react once he's transitioning onto the horse?
Well, it depends on him, but usually sometimes he goes to the horse first, and sometimes he goes to the teacher first. We try and get him to do a little bit of both, but when he's been with the teacher, any transition, regardless, is difficult because, like you said, he doesn't realize that he's going to the horse right away because he doesn't pay attention to anybody. So it's a little tough to get him from the school classroom, which he can see it's closed, but to get to the horse, and we have to tell him, horse time, horse time, horse time, which is doing in Spanish, it's horse time, and we have a picture of a horse, so there's a picture of the horse. We're trying to be more consistent with him. So in the classroom, we have a visual schedule, and there's a picture of the horse, and we take it off the Velcro, horse. But he doesn't always get it, so he's a little resisting because he's leaving a fun place. But as soon as we take him by the hand and walk him close enough to where he realizes he's going to the horse, then he's better. His first response to the horse was horrible, but he's much better now. He likes the horse now. So once he sees and it clicks that, oh, it's horse time, then he's okay to walk to the horse. But of course, then we have to do the whole thing about putting on the belt and putting on the helmet and all of that, which of course he'd much rather just go to the horse without all that other stuff put on him. But he does. And eventually that's where he goes.
And the helmet and the belt are kept near the horse. They couldn't be
Yes.
in the classroom to aid
They
with the
can
transition.
be, they can be,
Mm.
they can be. We can bring them up in between. We definitely can do that. That's a good idea. Maybe that would prepare his brain to say, okay, this is where we're going. Because he does associate those two things probably by now, I think, I hope that that's where he's
Okay.
going.
Okay.
That's a good
And then
idea.
does he walk up a ramp? Does he walk up steps? How does he get up to
Steps.
the up
With
steps?
him right now, we're doing steps. But he can't reach all the way, so we get him as far as we can, and then one of the guys puts his hand there and he puts his foot on there, but he has no idea how to do any of that. So it's hand over hand, like, there's two of us, and I take his hand and put his foot on the guy's hand, and it's like up. We just do really easy words, up, down. I mean, very small words. We don't speak a lot to him because words I don't confuse him, I think. So we do those. And then once he's on, he's like ready for it to move. Then his hands go crazy. His hands start moving. That's his big sign about, ooh, something's happening. He waves his hands, he flaps his hands, he does a lot with his hands.
So he's doing a lot with his hands. Do you think that's his communication to the horse to go, or is that just his typical response to something exciting?
Yeah, that's what I think it is. He uses that a lot. Yeah, he's the one that puts everything in his mouth too. So between his flapping of his moving his hands a lot and no purposeful movement whatsoever, it's just kind of random. And then when he's excited or something's changing or to indicate something's different, got his attention, he uses it.
And so Shannon, is this where Susan could come in and do a hand over hand, or Joe hand over hand to have him do a tap, or like what would you suggest as a method of assisting him to show him this is the sign to tell the horse to go?
Yeah, I would. And I would try not to make it real intrusive. It's kind of hard because you are entering his personal space and doing hand over hand. But also it's like, he needs to kind of associate that whatever you're doing with the hand, if it's pointing, whether it's touching the horse, that the horse doesn't go until I do this. And that means go. And do the verbal with it too. And I would do it. I wouldn't do it like over and over and over, like go, go, go. I would just say go and tell the horse handler, let's go. So that hopefully he'll start associating go means the horse moves forward. I get that movement that I'm craving.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do think that that's where the communication with your horse handler is going to be super important, because you want that immediate response. Once you've helped him with that cue, whatever you've decided that one simple movement is going to be, you want within a 2-second time period for that horse to be walking in order for him to associate this means go.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I think I am able to share one video, and then I'm going to have to do the old swapperoo to show another one. All right, let's see if I can put him on repeat. So Susan, do you want to talk to this particular video? Again, everybody, these were videos that Susan had sent in the past. And so we realize that the leading could be different. So we're disregarding that for the moment. But we could talk about the impulsion of the horse or the horse handler's positions. The responsiveness of the child, So,
Yeah, he just doesn't know where he is. You can see every time the horse moves forward, he goes backwards. Like he doesn't get at all what to do when he's on there. It seems like to me. Like if we do start stops, he just goes way backwards. He doesn't use his hands to hold on or to help himself in any way whatsoever. He just kind of randomly he puts his hands out weird, just like out there, both of them out, not doing anything with them. They're just sort of, he does it a lot.
but that's something he does off the horse, or that's something
Yeah,
he does
always.
on the horse?
More so on the horse, but he does it even when he's not. He just keeps his hand out there. Waving, kind of sometimes just out to the side, just out there. But he does like to put everything in his mouth, when he finds something, he grabs whatever it is that's in front of him, he'll take and put in his mouth. But when there's nothing to put in his mouth, that's what he does with his hands. He just, like he doesn't know he has them, almost.
Okay. So does anybody have any comments about what they're seeing here? So, I'm going to say that I like your horse handler here. I know we talked about this horse handler the last time. The person on the right, I think, was younger and newer. This person on the left is much more, he's very engaged.
Right.
And he's doing a pretty good job. He does look like, again, when you're one person holding on to a handhold, it's very easy to bring that patient over towards you. And it does seem like there's a bit of that going on, especially, right there towards the end of this little snippet. But Matthias doesn't seem at all to mind that proprioceptive input that he's getting from the belt, from the handle, from the sidewalker's position, of his hand on his leg. A lot of kids don't tolerate that. His position, other than being maybe a little bit over towards the left, looks pretty good. To me, he looks engaged. He looks like he's enjoying this movement.
Oh yeah, he loves it. He does. He loves being on the horse.
And so he's feeling that sensation of the movement through his body. And maybe that's a good thing that he's not wanting to use his hands or do anything with his hands at the moment. If you gave him something in his hands, like a ball, what do you think he would do?
Let it go.
He would just let it go. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Carol, what would you think if a surcingle was introduced in this, and so a handle that could be used at times to attach things to see if he might engage using his hands purposefully, as opposed to waving them around? It might also help him understand where his body is a little bit in relation to his arms extended in front of him. It could be used at some times, but it feels like, I agree with you. It looks like he's loving the movement, sort of doing his little windmills a little bit with his arms, but just giving him something to ground himself to a little bit, to find his position in his space.
I love that idea, Joe. Susan, do you have a firm handled surcingle?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. All right.
And also you could use it to attach things to, Susan, and then get him maybe to see what he likes, his preferences are of what things he does like to touch, what sensory input he's looking for. And it might be a way of bringing his attention to something.
Okay.
And that might bring his posture forward also. I'd also encourage the sidewalker, when you're about to go forward, you're going to get that propulsion. If he can, doing a little poking, just rather than having a hand where it's your actual fingers. And PTs help me out here because I'm not talking PT language, but I've discovered with, obnoxious fingers, when the fingers hit the small of the back, that can also kind of wake you up and and make you want to move away from the fingers moving forward. And it seems like it's on the go part. It's on that from it's the propulsion part that he wants to lean back. And that might be enough of a cue where he comes forward. Carol,
So-
tell me the PT words.
From the PT perspective, what I would suggest is actually putting the hands on the abdominals, because the whole thing about the go is that the momentum is pulling you back. And so the idea is we want to engage the flexors. So doing a little sweep of the abdominals. So, you know, just taking that idea that you just gave of that tactile information, Shannon, but rather than facilitating the extensors, which might only give him something to lean back on, I'd say, see if you can engage the abdominals as you're doing an upward transition, and see if he would, you know, engage those abdominals.
I love that.
But yeah, it is hard to know whether the person holding, you know, whether your sidewalker holding that gait belt is, you know, you got to make sure he's not pulling in any way, because if
I don't think he's
I
pulling
don't
him
think
back.
he is either.
I don't
He
think he's
doesn't
pulling him back,
appear
because
to be.
normally I'm a sidewalker. I'm not
Yeah.
normally in the back taking video. Usually I'm a sidewalker. So yeah, no, it's just, and I sometimes don't touch him at all just to see what he do. And he just doesn't know that horse is going to go that way, and he just doesn't respond. He just goes back. It's his core that's not awake, I think.
Right. So yes. All right. Let me find another Matthias video. Just gonna.
I think they do him backwards. They put him backwards so I can get some weight bearing in his arms so he can feel something.
Oh, okay. I will look for one of those, because I'm trying to figure out if the one I just pulled up was different than. Do I have one of him in reverse?
I sent one. Sent it.
Yes, I do. Okay. Hold on here. Let me.
Susan, what alternative positions has he been in?
We turn him backwards and sideways, both ways, sideways. We do have a little bridge too that I have that the horse goes up and down on the bridge too, but that's why I thought putting him facing backwards, because then he puts his hands down and then he gets proprioceptive to his hands, so at least he does something in his hands. I'm trying to, but they're like, now you don't see him. He puts his hands down. So that he can get some feeling in the back, you know, but he doesn't stay that way, but
I think that's really good for him, though.
he doesn't always, but he falls down that way. He'll weight bear on him, but then he likes to put his hands out, but then the movement pushes him back down again.
Yeah, but he's pushing himself off by the look of it. Sorry, it's very
Yep.
small on
Yep.
mine.
Yeah, because he wants his hands free.
Yeah, but it could be, but that proprioceptive input of pushing himself off as well.
Yes, that's what I wanted him to go backwards.
So this particular lower leg position is going to influence him to lean forward. It is just pushing his hips into flexion and his pelvis into an anterior pelvic tilt, in addition to the slope of the withers of the horse also facilitating that. So I would see if your sidewalker could help bring the leg down a little bit and still gain what you want, just for a more neutral alignment. Oh my gosh, look at how happy
He's having-
this.
Oh, he loves it. He loves it.
Wow. So I would also just suggest that, and it's hard for me to see what is on the horse, just really double and triple check that you've got good padding for the horse. Because that could make that, you know, every time his hands come down, you see that head of the horse come up a little bit. So just to protect the back, because he's
She's
giving
got a
some-
lot of padding. She's got one of those really, those withers, and her back is kind of bony, so we double pad her, triple pad her.
Good, good. Yeah, because there's some force happening there with, you know,
Yep.
with the hands, but what beautiful weight bearing right there.
Yeah.
You could put a little bolster across the back too, so he can actually push off that instead of the horse.
Good, or a boppy around him, perhaps. But I think that Susan was saying that he really likes to feel the horse.
Yeah, sometimes he'll just lay down from that position. A lot of times he'll actually lay his whole body down to feel the horse move like that.
And do you let that happen?
Yep.
Yeah, good, because then he's getting all that proprioception through his trunk.
Yeah, he's not very animated at all in general. So this is the most animated he gets when he's on the horse. His mom can't believe the response that he's like another kid, because normally he's pretty stoic.
Well, he's getting a lot of sensory input here. And he's also getting, what could be challenging for some kids. He's seeming to enjoy the fact of that visual mismatch of things appearing to move away from him instead of towards him. That doesn't seem to be bothering him at all. Now, if you were to halt with him so engaged, would that not be a good time to get him to do whatever that hand gesture would be to have the horse walk on again?
Definitely, because when he stops and wants to go again, he just grunts, no words, just like he definitely lets you know he wants more.
Yeah. Yeah. So then being consistent with whatever that gesture is that you're going to be, teaching him, I would think that he would be superbly motivated, based on what we're seeing here and how engaged he is. And then again, trying to hand him some type of soft, toy, something that's going to be safe, and or blowing bubbles, even if is he somebody who likes bubbles?
He likes bubbles. He can't blow bubbles, but yes, he responds to bubbles sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about him interacting with another person. So a person standing behind your sidewalker, like at the horse's tip. I mean, obviously in a safe position and or a horse length away, but that might be too far away for him to be engaged with. Because this seems like he's now ripe.
Yeah.
And Shannon and Joe and everybody else, chime in, but it seems like this is the ripe time for him to be introduced to some activity.
Yeah.
Because you really have his arousal up.
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
I just have to say, any of the toys, any of the bubbles, show your horse first and make sure the horse is okay with the bubbles coming from behind, because we do not have many horses who are tolerant of bubbles. And so just be real careful that everything's introduced to the horse first, and where it's going to be, where he'll be playing with it on the horse. But I think, this is, that smile's amazing. And I'm with Joe. I think he's enjoying doing that push off. Which is cool because that's strengthening his core.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that's on purpose.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he enjoys backwards better than forward for sure. He just loves it. And then eventually he just lays down on the horse and just watch and just feel the bumpiness of the horse's bum. And he thinks that's his happy place for me. Sideways he's not as happy about, but backwards he is.
Sideways is pretty scary.
Yeah.
You've given them a very narrow base of support and they feel very insecure there. So that's a tough position. But this one seems to be, where you would, I could see you adding activities in this position.
And I think that's my question is, what activities would you guys think of specifically, just because this is where my weakness is, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, definitely the stop go. I'll do some toy, like he's hard to attend when it's toys, the movement he definitely attends to, not so much to objects, but.
Okay, I'm going to
I
stop
would-
sharing so we can kind of talk about that.
I would not be too enthusiastic about introducing too much. And if you get 5 minutes of gold, you've got 5 minutes of gold. Sometimes as therapists, we feel like, I'm not doing enough or I need to do more, but it's those beautiful 5 minutes can be the optimum learning time for this little person. And if you get a good response, then you just can build on that very slowly and maybe build your time increments. But yeah, I would say I agree that those moments that we've just seen there are beautiful, and that's probably your golden opportunity.
Right. I mean, for some kind of communication, some engagement, whatever it would be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if you're deciding if you're just doing the stop and the go or the choice, then just work on that for a while. Just get that response, understand that communication before you add too much more in.
Simple choices and a stop go thing for because he loves to go in that position. So just very little, because otherwise because he's not. I mean, he doesn't have much to go on as far as communication with another person, other than his his actions.
Yeah, and that would be my approach, but please, anyone else?
I totally agree, but I think that if you have that high level of motivation, then I think that's where you're going to get the greatest chance of making him realize that he can control the movement, by him giving a signal. And so I think he's going to be at that peak for learning. Megan, do you have any? I don't know, Megan, you came in with this video on, so hi.
Hi.
And Leslie, so we're getting lots of OTs joining the group here. So,
I didn't hear all of all of the intro part, but I would agree to keep it simple and like a stop go, a first then. You could easily layer a single step motor action with it once he has the stop go and the first then really well. Sometimes those lower arousal kids just need a single success, like the term is escaping me, but when you set up something that it's really hard to fail, like a single puzzle piece into a single thing, or a single large baby peg into the pegboard, and then he hits go and then he walks on. So you're only layering like a 5-second task in there, and then he gets to go, because I think you would lose the arousal and end up with a fit or bad behavior if you pushed too hard. Like everyone's saying, like just keep it really simple. And even as an OT, I would still work on the stop and the go and the first then kind of thing, because it's so functional. If he doesn't have that and he doesn't engage with the people, sometimes the kids that really struggle motorically, though, I will even hand over hand, like, okay, you put one peg in the pegboard, you hit the go button, and then you walk on. And pretty soon they figure out that like having to complete a simple task is not the end of the world, and they get to go again, and you start to build resilience. But I wouldn't do that until he really understands he can ask for go. If, that would probably still be my start point there. Or have it something really simple where he can be successful and just has a small visual motor or fine motor piece. Or if he can push the ball into the basketball hoop, like not necessarily take both hands and put it in, but like knock it off of somebody's hand into the hoop where it's like going to go in no matter what. and then he gets to walk on. So like, we're going to stop here. You push the ball in one time because I saw you had that. So it's
Yep.
something you don't have to buy. You know, he
Yep.
doesn't have to hold it or throw it or anything. He just has to complete that simple motor action and keep going, because sometimes they don't understand that the boundary isn't forever and it's so simple. Like, I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just want to know how to build on it. Yeah, how to take advantage of that moment.
Yeah. We played a game with a little kid that had low verbal, and now he talks nonstop. But we would just stop suddenly and be like, oh no, you have to start him again. And he would have to, that kid could say go. So, you know, you could also add affect with the stop, like, so that it's not just stop, go. It's like, uh-oh, he stopped. You have to make him go again. And then whatever communication method you're using, whether it's like signing more or hitting something that says go or a Big Mac, you know, whatever you have access to. And that, I forget, are you an SLP, OT, PT?
Orthopedic PT.
Okay. Yeah. So you might not have all the speech things, but just like one of those quick little, some communication, if he sees a speech or his school teacher or whatever the family wants to do to work on, so he can request more, go more, you know.
Mhm.
something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
do have a couple of Loma Linda University brings like once every 4 months or so, 6 months. Sometimes they bring a team of teachers and speech students. And some of my friends from San Diego are special needs teachers, so they're bringing things. So sometimes they bring things, and then I just have, and they give me little ideas on how to use them. So we have some tools and some equipment and some things that they brought down. It's just a matter of now being able to use them, and where to go and kind of develop like treatment programs, you know, and progressions for kids that are mostly on the spectrum. Like I said, we have 7 toddlers on the spectrum, and most of them are nonverbal. So, and I have kids that aren't even on the spectrum and are nonverbal. And you name it, I have it. So some of my kids just do the first sound, you know.
That's fine.
It's just the first sound. That's it. It's like, okay, now how do I pull out the rest of the sound? But yeah, but that's what the most of my parents just want: help and communication and some hope. And you know, I know, and they keep telling me it's very long. It takes a long time. And,
Yeah, it does. Well, and he looks so happy. I think you are set up really well to get just at least the beginning, even if it's eye contact, even if he just has to look at you to make the horse go, like that still means something, because he's looking to you to help him instead of just having a fit. You know, all of those things are baby steps.
Oh, that's a good idea about adding, like, I know, like I said, using the words bodies and faith, a lot of these kids don't. I know they need, you know, 1-step command, 2-step command, 3-step commands kind of thing. It's just a matter of getting more experience for me into being able to incorporate those ideas that I know were there. Just how do I do it, you know? And, but hand over hand, a pegboard, we do have one of those, but I'm not I think pushing a ball is more gross motor, like a little bit easier for him, and then maybe progress him to something more if he actually has to touch. I don't know.
But yeah, if he's tactily defensive, then that's hard too, if he's not going to grasp anything, but just to hit home that, you know, he can do a simple motor task and then say go, and the horse can go once he has some sort of way to communicate go. Whether it's shaking his head, you know, whatever the team decides. I prefer to stick with something universally functional. I've seen people like tap the horse, but I'm like, no, I want them to say like a go button or look at you and say more, you know, is usually my go-to. But I'm an OT, so speechies might have more input on that.
So Susan, I have two, I guess, a thought and a question. So the one is, this is my question. So do you have a bolster swing? Do you have a platform swing? Do you have, there's even some easier ways to like set up a swing with cotton t-shirt fabric or lycra fabric. Like if you've got people, but not, the ability to set up swings, there's still some things you can do. So this is my thought with that being that, you can see vestibular input really helps fire his neurons, and that's probably vestibular input's probably going to be really important for a lot of your other nonverbal toddlers on the spectrum too. So I would really encourage you, especially if you've got teams coming down or whatever, just put a bug in somebody's
You
ear.
kind of read my mind, actually. And I'm glad you said that. Because in February, we do have a group coming down and they're going to build us another little small area. It's like a little small house. And and I want it to be the neurostim room. I want to design it exactly what you were saying. I did buy like a swing. It's not a bolster swing. I just have it's a square with a tent kind of thing. I do have lycra that I use for some of my hypotonic babies. As much as my strength holds out, we use the lycra because my girlfriend just told me to do that. But if you guys can come up with some of these great ideas, because I do, once I have the building in February, I need to put stuff in it. I need to design it. And so that's another great thing to bring up, what would be the best environment to create for these kids, because I'm going to create this space specifically for them because I have so many like this. They're coming in February and it's just going to be this room, and it's going to be specifically for these kids. So yeah, I do have a swing. I just didn't want to put it up in the one room and then have to move it because I'm going to be, creating this space for them. So if you guys have any great things that I should be getting or asking for, that's what we're going to be designing now.
Yep. If they
Susan,
are
when you
building a building, having a beam that you could put an eye bolt in for the swing, there's a lot of advantages to that. A swing can also come with the frame, but then you've got, the frame, it's bulky, you trip, it takes up space. If the swing's on an eye bolt, you can have it up or you can have it down. When you've got a lot more flexibility in the space, and if you're monitoring your eye bolts sufficiently, I think it's better safe from my perspective. There's some safety advantages to that also.
Okay. Yeah, I think the eye bolts are a good idea when I'm going to use the swings inside this building. The other thing, there's some guy that's here. He happens to works with metal, and he's going to try and help us design some kind of a swing set type, jungle Jimmy type outside playground, which would be different because we do have a ranch. So we have space outside also. But the eye bolts, I think, the swings for the inside for this area, so that we could do whether it's raining or not, whether it's cold out or not. We have a space for them, and then we're going to have, hopefully this year, we're going to build some kind of a playground outside. We have nothing. Our community literally has nothing for kids in wheelchairs or anything else for that matter. So it's a little groundbreaking, one step at a time.
Yep.
Oh,
My thought that was specific for this child, and I don't know, Megan was saying about like hand skills and tactile defensiveness. I guess I wasn't sure how much. When he eats crunchy things, is he feeding him? He feeds himself?
Yeah, those he'll eat himself. Yeah, like I said, anything he has in his hands, he puts everything goes in his mouth. It doesn't always stay there, but he's very orally fixated. He does, he examines everything you give him. He'll put immediately to his mouth. He doesn't always keep it there. But
does he manage things like popcorn or carrot sticks, or is there anything crunchy he eats that a horse could eat?
not sure if he's into the whole carrot thing or not, but I
No,
cannot.
maybe
Yeah,
it could be
I would-
popcorn, like I said, I don't know, veggie sticks, just whatever, anything that's on the list of,
Sometimes
know.
we'll sometimes we'll use ice blocks, just small ice blocks with something delicious in it, like a blueberry or yeah. So they like to crunch the ice blocks. It's cheap, it's free, it's water and a bit of freeze. So sometimes we'll do that with our kids. We'll have the ice blocks because it's a really good crunch.
You mean ice cubes?
Yeah,
Ice
ice cubes. Sorry.
Ice blocks, ice cubes.
lost,
Okay.
lost in translation.
Okay, I'm good at translating. Okay. And put something in the ice cube though. You put something in it. Huh.
Yeah, like a blueberry or something that's going to be soft, obviously, so they don't choke on it.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's cheap, basically.
Oh,
Cheap
cool.
to do.
Yeah.
A little bit of watermelon. So it's also a way just to introduce different
Oh, my
foods,
horses
different
love
flavors.
watermelon.
Yeah,
My
the
horses
water,
love watermelon. That's like their favorite thing ever.
yeah. So you could make watermelon juice ice blocks for the child and the horse.
Yeah.
So like popsicles with a stick.
No, just literally in a tray. You know, have the
Okay,
old fashioned
okay, just the ice
trays.
cube.
Yeah, silicon tray, just an ice cube.
Hmm.
Big enough so that they can't swallow them. But yeah, it's just also a way of introducing new flavors. And if he likes crunchy, I find that a lot of my kids like crunchy, which is interesting because you guys said that you find that quite the opposite. But most of my kids love crunchy things.
Mm.
So you could
Um,
introduce that too while they're on the horse. You know, it could be at one point there, you stop and they get something crunchy and you can see if he's seeking that.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably just be careful about him like chewing crunchy
Okay.
things while he's
Correct.
moving. But if he could stay still
Stay
long
still.
enough to eat that.
Correct.
One of the things I was thinking of that creates some fine motor and manipulation, but is not something he could really put in his mouth, are those tubs of like fart foam or whatever it is, where you stick your fingers into the foam and make the noise. Are you familiar with those? They're like a plastic container and it looks like silly putty kind of stuff in there, but you can stick your finger in
Slime.
and you get these, fart noises, and the
Like
kids
slime or
really
something.
love them.
I think I have slime or something like that.
Well, slime's another one, except that could go in the mouth. The thing that's nice about this other is that the foam stays within the jar usually and
Oh,
it doesn't come out so readily.
So I can Amazon fart foam.
It's called Flarp,
Flarp.
Flarp.
How do you spell that, Megan?
FLARP is what I think you're talking about. It's the jar and you can make inappropriate noises with it.
The
Oh,
kids
Again,
love.
maybe check with the horse because it is quite realistic, however.
Okay. I can
Yeah.
try that.
There are a
Yeah.
lot of really good, he might like those like bubble popper things
Mm.
where you just poke the
Yeah.
hole, and that's really great for finger isolation. If he is nonverbal and would have to go through a communication device, you'd be working on a finger isolation skill, and it's pretty low risk. And if he does eat it, it's just silicone. So you could hose that off with soapy water.
Yeah.
But those are really popular fidgets lately that come in all
Yeah.
different sizes.
Yeah, we have some of those.
I just was going to go back to your room really quick. I would agree with Sandra if you can do the eye bolt hooks, but you do need 1,000-pound working load is one of the requirements for that. And if you have the space to do it, I would do 3 in a row, like a foot or so apart, because that gives you a lot of options for your vestibular input. Even better is like 3 in a row times 2. So, a rectangle of it, because then you can hang up a Lycra swing. But you need 2 points of suspension for some items to get a gliding movement, if that makes sense. So like some swings have the 2 suspension points. So you'll want to be able to hook it that way, and some have a single. And then if you can afford it, an eye bolt, like you can get a spinner And that would help keep your eye bolts in and help keep your swing having pure movement without having to necessarily unwind. Have you seen any of those? So if you can afford at least one spinner, that's a really nice addition.
Look it
and
up
you
as a
have to be
rotation
comfortable to-
device.
Yeah.
Look it up
Thank
as a
you.
rotation device.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
professionally called a rotation device, not a spinner.
Rotate.
Um, Rotational device. They sell them through most major therapy clinics. Like I think Southpaw has them, and I haven't purchased one in a long time, but that just helps with safety. One of my friends was spinning somebody without one, and the swing came out of the ceiling. So you do not want that.
No, definitely don't want
So I'm like a very hardcore. Please use a rotational device if you're going to do rotation.
that.
Because
Okay.
that particular kid was a sensory seeker who did it himself, but still, it's just better safe than sorry. And then obviously
Yep.
put the mats underneath.
Yeah.
And there's so many different swings you can use. It really just depends. But if you're looking for those little kids, I think you're on a really good track with the Lycra. A simple platform swing is great because you can add an inner tube in it if you need extra stability, like just an inner tube from a tire. Or even like the floaties for the pool, you can just set one in there and the kids can sit in, and then if they need extra support while they're swinging, but you can do a lot with just those two things.
Okay.
Or a glider. There's a lot of different ones you can use, and you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a lot, but you can get a lot of things done with just that.
Okay.
A really cheap hammock is a hiker's hammock.
Hiker. Oh, yeah.
And it's a lot cheaper than some of the commercial ones that you buy
Yeah.
specifically for therapy.
Yeah. Hiker. Okay. So great ideas. Thank you.
So I realized we had another rear facing video. So I'm going to show that one too. I'm going to go ahead and slow it down. So I found it interesting that he lifted up his arms as though somebody had said to him,
Yeah. They don't. He just does it.
lift your arms, because the timing was so perfect. And he looks so happy here with him getting that increased proprioceptive input with the horse stepping. And so he's getting that vertical movement. So he's getting vestibular and prop, which obviously the bridge is going to give him too, as well as that audible input.
I like the way it looks like he looks down as the horse goes on the bridge, like off the side. Like, what's going on? What changed?
Yeah. Yeah. I think he hears the clumping too. He hears the hoofs.
And then it was interesting that as soon as he was done with those poles, he put his hands back down. Like he lifted, he went over the poles, and then he put his hands down.
Yeah.
So he may be, perceiving, you know, what's happening next. I don't know if that was all just happenstance or planned, but he seemed to know what he was doing there.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn good postural control right there.
Yeah. It's almost like when he puts his hands out, it's like somebody on a tightrope where they put their hands out to balance themselves. That's what he seems like he's doing.
Mhm. That's exactly what it looked like he was doing.
Yeah, because he felt the change with the
Yes.
horse, and boom, immediately, oh, I have to put my hands out to balance myself.
Yes. Yes, he definitely felt like he needed it with the step up onto that platform.
Mhm.
But he put his hands down actually before he even got to the platform.
Yeah.
So it makes me realize that, you know, when you're working around the arena, no matter whether he's facing forward or rear facing, the idea of incorporating changes in stride is
Mhm.
going to help to get those flexors and extensors engaged more for that sagittal plane core control.
Yeah.
All right. So those were the videos that we had of Matthias, and I think those were the only ones that I had of somebody that was specifically autism spectrum disorder. So I'm gonna. Okay, thank you, Shannon. Thanks for all your input. We really appreciate it.
Definitely. Yeah. I need all that you get.
So do you have anything else you want to bring up right now, or any questions, or does anybody else have anything else to add to what we've discussed this evening? I feel like we've covered a lot of bases. Has this been helpful, Susan?
It's been very helpful. Any input that I can get from you guys is extremely helpful, because not only am I down here kind of by myself, I'm actually trying to teach the next generation to do this also. Since I'm 61 and not getting any younger, I'm trying to teach too. And I can't teach things that I don't know. So I have one special needs teacher who's Mexican and just graduated, and I have my adoptive daughter who just graduated therapy school. And so all of your input is awesome, because I'm trying to build this center for this community ongoing into the future. So I really appreciate all you guys' help and input as we continue to move forward together, to give these children and these families hope and services that are not available. I get phone calls literally every day by other desperate moms trying to help their kids in whatever way that they can. And so we're building something to the future. And if any of y'all want to come down, we are only 2 hours from the border, San Diego. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate all your input as we move forward into the future with these kids.
Susan, if you can, after tonight, go on to our Facebook page and just post something post presentation tonight, and remind everybody of your email address and your Facebook page, so that people could, communicate with you if they want to buy something off of Amazon to send to you. How can people do that? I think people would like to help if they know exactly, how to go about it.
Okay,
So if you could,
I'll definitely do that. I will definitely do
I'll
that.
send you some flarp.
oh,
Yeah, sounds awesome.
thanks, Julie.
I
My
might
children
need some.
have some.
I might need some of that myself on days. It sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel
Susan.
like that's hard. I think my parents are just so desperate for their kids to be integrated into society. So anything we can do to help them would be great.
So Susan, I wanted to mention that the occupational therapy doctoral programs now are scheduled with a capstone experience. So this is on top of the normal field work that we have. It's pretty self-directed. It does not need to be, and I do think it's 10 to 12 weeks in length. And it does not need to be with an OT because it's not their clinical rotations. So for example, the student that I mentored last semester, she was in St. Pete, Florida, I think. She was at the Senior Recreation Center, and she looked at falls prevention through Tai Chi. But although it's not their clinical rotation, the students do need to be placed the same way as they would for a rotation. So if you'd be willing to host students, you can basically offer up your ranch as a location for a capstone experience. So I would take a look at occupational therapy doctoral programs at schools near you in California. And that might be, I know some of our previous classes have had a number of students that have been very interested in doing international work. So I have to think if you offered yourself up as a capstone location to one or more schools, that you would definitely get some students coming down.
I would love that, and I'd be completely open to that. Absolutely, 100%. Right now, like I said, we get some students just a day though. You know, it's like one day every 4 or 6 months or something from Loma Linda University. And they come down to private university. But I just don't. I would love it. I just don't know if people are, the schools are okay with, international. But I guess I don't know. I mean. I have no problem with it. I would love to have them, and I would love to have PTOT speech, whoever wants to come.
Yeah. I know we had a UF student, I believe she went to Costa Rica. So yeah, there were a few extra hoops, but the student was highly motivated but it was a very similar type situation. It was a therapy program for children with disabilities, and it was something the student had been engaged with previously before she went on her capstone. So the student was very motivated, and UF made it happen.
Okay. Yeah. No, I would totally be supportive 100% for that. Because there isn't actually, I don't even think OT even really exists in Mexico. Honestly, there's like very, very few. There might be a few OTs maybe in Tijuana, but there's very few schools. So there's no OTs that I know of in any of the Ensenada area. It doesn't exist. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a profession in general.
Yep.
They use
And these
psychology.
students, I mean, our students, when they go on capstone, they're about 2.5 years in. They finish their clinical rotations. So the idea of this is really an independent leadership, community development,
that'd be great.
applied project.
Yeah. No, I would love that. I would be open to that anytime. Yep, for sure.
Okay, so everybody who's here thinking about next month, and I don't know, Susan may have had enough of us, but we still have a lot of Susan's videos with even more kids with different diagnoses. Would we like to continue on? Would we like to do something different? How would we like to proceed for next month? Any particular topics? No thoughts? Susan, would you be willing to come back another time? And
I'll be here every single day. You guys want to be here?
I mean, you are providing us with a wealth of children to consider. And certainly I think you have some pretty involved kiddos from some of the other videos that I've seen. So I'd be happy to, to continue next time, because it looked like some of yours have some orthopedic issues as well as neurological issues. So it would present.
And some are blind and
that-
some are, all kinds of
Okay.
things.
Okay, so everybody okay with that? Would you be interested in having Susan back next month? I will post something in Facebook, and then everybody can also input any other ideas that they have for future sessions. But I'm glad that we've now really become the interdisciplinary, and people are realizing this isn't just PT, and so. But we wanted to make it educational for everybody, and so just
And I'd
provide
like
your
to give you
input.
some feedback as to all your suggestions, especially with Matthias. I want to try some of these things and try, using the stop goes and some of the activities, and maybe the pegboard or whatever you guys have. Wrote it all down, and maybe get some video of trying this, and if it works, great.
That would be awesome.
And then maybe you guys, okay, how am I messing it?
Well, and as you're educating your, did you say it was your foster daughter?
I have a lot of
who's-
kids in Mexico. I raised
so
this one.
just remember that this is all being recorded, and you can access this, so you can have others, watch this as well.
Well, that's what I was wondering too. My daughter is bilingual because I raised her, so she has no problem with the English. And my special needs teacher, she doesn't speak English, but she understands.
Okay.
So she can watch it for sure. Yeah,
Okay.
she's timid, but to actually speak it, but maybe I'll have them if I can. It's just hard. Logistically, it's kind of hard because I have to leave them at the ranch and come here to get online. So they're finishing up therapy at the, because we live in 2 different ranches. We're trying to build a ranch, on the other side of town. So, but yeah, I would love to. I'm going to get some videos of the guys that you told me about, and you guys can see some of those suggestions.
That will be perfect. That's
in
awesome.
motion and see how I do as an OT and speech therapist. Because sometimes I do that, and I do pictures and stuff, and I do all these videos for my friends in speech, and I'm like, I have a whole new lingo that I never thought I'd ever have.
Well, you are truly, truly amazing and very inspiring, for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for all your help.
Okay, all right. So we'll look ahead to next month, and we will post the date, but I'm imagining that it will be okay. I can't do February 6th. So let's plan on Monday, February 13th. Is that a date that would work for people? Okay,
I'll be in Cancun.
all right. What's that?
I'll be in Cancun.
You'll be in
you'll be in
Cancun? Oh, you'll be close to Susan.
You'll be in Mexico.
I am. I'm going to be in Mexico.
Yay!
Yay. I believe, is it this week that there's a lunch and learn through the Hippotherapy Association? That's applications of,
So there's a lunch and learn on Thursday, January 19th
oh, it's the 19th. I knew it was coming up.
at 1:00 with Ruth Dismuke Blakely.
Yeah, if you don't know about it, just look into it because it sounds interesting.
I don't.
Yes.
The other thing that I do is I drive kids to Shriners up in Sacramento and Pasadena, and I got a kid going to Pasadena on the 18th, but what time on the 19th is it?
It's at noon central.
Noon Central. I'll put it on my calendar. I might be driving. I don't know.
So that would be 10 a.m. your time.
I think.
10 a.m.
Am I right? Noon central?
Yeah, because it's 1 p.m. Eastern. Mhm.
Okay, I'll put it down, see if I'm driving back from Shriners. Let's see.
Yeah, and it was exciting to have Joe, because Joe's been participating from Australia. So this is,
wow.
loving this international.
Yay. Very cool.
So, all right, everybody. Well, we'll post some things, but we'll see you all on Monday, February 13th.
Okay.
Take care,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye.
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 All right, thanks, Carol. I will get the recording posted tomorrow.
All right, thank you.